I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. On Monday evening, Rosh Hashanah began in Jerusalem. That was with sundown, the new moon of September. And 2 days later, on Wednesday evening at sundown, the 2-day celebration was over. Now here we are at the end of these 2 days, and there has been no rapture. We have not heard a heavenly trumpet sound, and we're still here. Pointing up a very important fact. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." Now, my opinion is he was saying to these disciples who had asked him at the beginning of this chapter, "Tell us, when shall these things be?" He was saying, basically, it's not for you to know. Now, I personally think he knew. I think he exempted himself from men on the earth, and since he was not in heaven and he was not an angel, he said, "Of that day and hour knoweth no man." In other words, nobody else knows. I think he could have said, "I know, but the rest of you don't." And he said, "No, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." So of all those in heaven, nobody knows but the Father. So I do not think that Jesus was including himself here in those who did not know. Because listen to what he said in Acts chapter 1. On the day of his ascension, the disciples asked him, there they were on the Mount of Olives, he was fixing to ascend back into heaven. They asked him, saying, "Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?" And he said unto them, "It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own power." It is not for you to know. Now, I think he knew. But he withheld that information from his own disciples. And those of the first century were thinking that he was going to come back before the end of the first century, because John was still alive. You may recall, last chapter of the Gospel of John, Peter, turning about, seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved, that's John, following, and which the one also which leaned on his breast at supper, and saith, "Lord, what shall this man do? What shall this man do?" And Jesus said, "If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me." Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, that disciple should not die. Yet Jesus said not unto him, "He shall not die, but if I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee?" And this is that disciple which testifieth these things. In other words, he said, "I wrote this book." So John was simply saying that Jesus did not say that he was going to live until the second coming. But that was the rumor. That was the story that got out. I guess Peter probably told it to one person, then he told it to another, and so on. You know how gossip spreads. It never ends up in the same way it started out originally. So somehow this saying went abroad and was probably pretty popular throughout the first century, that Jesus would be coming back before John died. He didn't, of course. And we are instructed, as well as those of the first century, that no man knows the day nor the hour. Now, I wish the Lord had come to rapture us out the last couple of days. It would have been a wonderful thing. I didn't wear a white robe, didn't go out and sit on the mountainside, but hey, I was tempted. What about you? Now, I realize that there are a lot of people who are guilty of date setting. But let me use that word guilt a little on the light side for a moment. Those who have a desire for Jesus to come back at the rapture and take us out, they're looking for him. And you may recall that Jesus said, it's going to take everybody else by surprise. I'm going to come as a thief in the night. But he indicated that he wasn't going to come as a thief in the night to those who were watching. You know, the good man of the house, he's watching. When the thief comes, he knows he's coming. He doesn't know exactly when, but he's watching. Well, we've been watching. We didn't give a rapture warning. We just gave a rapture watch, you know. We don't know when the Lord is coming. In fact, my personal opinion over the years has leaned toward Pentecost rather than the Feast of Trumpets. And I'll tell you why. The first trumpet that sounded in Exodus chapter 19 was on what later became the day of Pentecost. So when God came down on the mountain and gave the Ten Commandments to the people, and that first trumpet, heavenly trumpet sounded, the people were so frightened they asked Moses to tell the Lord not to do that again, and for him to tell Moses, and Moses could tell them. So in other words, they were afraid of the presence of God. Well, that was the first trumpet. According to the rabbis, and you know, all we have is a Jewish book and Jewish commentaries in the past centuries. Even the New Testament is written all by Jews. We have this Jewish commentary on that event on Mount Sinai, Exodus chapter 19, saying that that trumpet, that shofar trumpet, was taken from one of the two horns of the ram that was caught in the thicket when Abraham, you know, was given a substitute ram to place instead of sacrificing his son Isaac. And so the second horn was also made into a shofar, a Jewish trumpet, or a heavenly trumpet. And Jews make trumpets out of ram's horns to this day because God is the first one that made the ram's horn trumpets. That second trumpet, the first one in Exodus 19 was blown. The second one is supposed to come at the resurrection. And we are not told exactly when that resurrection is to be. But when the disciples asked the Lord in the first century, tell us, when shall these things be? Jesus ended up this many signs. You remember he said, when you see all these things come to pass, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. In other words, we can know about when, but we cannot know the day nor the hour. In fact, to the disciples in Acts chapter 1, when he was about to leave them, they said, is this the time for the kingdom? Is the Messianic kingdom about to occur? And he said, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons, which the Father has put in his own power. So, here we said in 2008, the new sabbatical cycle has begun. It's just hours old, but there was no rapture, no resurrection on Rosh Hashanah. In the days of old, in Jerusalem, in the Bible days, Rosh Hashanah was observed on the first of Tishri. It is said that during the Babylonian captivity, Gedaliah was assassinated by a member of the royal family, and Gedaliah was the governor of the land. And so the death of Gedaliah is commemorated on the second day, the second of Tishri. And for the dispersion, what is called the diaspora, for the Jews who are no longer in the land of Israel, they are in exile in all the countries of the world, and there are 24 time zones, then they don't know exactly when the Sanhedrin court is going to see the new moon or receive a word that the new moon has been spotted, and therefore declare the day to be Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets. So, in 24 time zones around the world, they observe 24 hours, which makes 48 hours for the whole cycle to complete. So what started in Jerusalem Monday evening at 6:26 at sunset started in Oklahoma City at 10:26 Monday morning. And it was all over then after 2 days at 10:26 Monday morning in Jerusalem. Of course, it won't be over. It isn't over until Wednesday evening at sunset, officially in this time zone. But it takes 48 hours for the 24-hour period to work its way around the world. That's the reason why Rosh Hashanah is observed for 2 days instead of one. But in Israel, it is observed for 24 hours. And then they observe the second day of Tishri because of the death of their governor, Gedaliah. Well, nobody was killed this second day, second of Tishri. In Israel, no leaders were killed. Olmert is still alive. And so all we can do is sit here in our frustration and look at the scriptures and say, even so, come, Lord Jesus. We don't know when it's going to take place. But I tell you one thing, it will take place in God's own timing. Just keep looking up. This is J.R. Church. See you again tomorrow for our analysis on the news.